Democrat. When more people choose freedom over the status quo. Where people would choose a libertarian over a Massachusetts Republican. And quite frankly, I'm probably going to vote Libertarian instead of Chris Christie because I have no interest in a New Jersey Republican running for office. That's a big government Republican. That's a big government compromise Republican, and I have no interest in a candidate that will compromise their values. What good is voting Republican if the person on the ticket's not a good Republican? So I think that's important. Very important to note. And I think it's something you should consider as well. I think it's something very important that we all need to take into consideration. I know a lot of the folks here, a lot of the folks that listen are, staunch Republicans, staunch supporters of Greg Abbott and Governor Perry. Always will vote for the Republican and just they want to do everything they can to defeat the Democrats because they're tired of people stepping on the Constitution. And I'm right there with you. I like Greg Abbott. I've had good things to say about Governor Perry. I do. The question is, are they also stepping on the Constitution? If you think about this NSA facility in San Antonio, you can't help but think that they are. The fact that Governor Perry and Greg Abbott let that facility be built is all the evidence I need. And I wish someone would ask him. I wish someone would ask both of them, hey, what's the deal with this facility and how come you've let that happen? And any answer outside of I'm sorry and I'm on it is an unacceptable answer. Now, I had some interesting conversations this week that I think are noteworthy that need to be discussed here because people are confused. People do not understand what exactly is going on with our rights, what they mean, what they are. And I think it's important to talk about it because of something I heard earlier, it was, I believe, yesterday. Somebody actually told me that the bodies of minors, the bodies of your children, belong to the government. And that's why we have laws protecting minors. Now, this individual is overwhelmingly wrong and clearly has no inkling of constitutional law, of right to life and property, of Bill of Rights for minors. Clearly, those things are not supportive of her statements. And she went on to say that, ask any Texas judge or police officer and they'll tell you. And I'm like, to respond to something like this is just, you kind of want to beat your face against the wall. But if any Texas police officer or judge said to me that the body of a minor belongs to the state, I would label that man a terrorist and an enemy to the nation. The idea that your children belong to Obama is a collectivist, evil thought. The idea that children belong to the United States government is evil. That is an evil thought. These children belong to themselves and to their parents. Period. The only children that belong to Obama are his two. That's it. The only children that belong to Congress are the ones they have themselves. That's it. The reason we have laws protecting minors is because other people would violate their rights. Not the rights the government's given them, not the rights the government says they ought to have. Their rights that they are born with as people, as human beings. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, free speech, free religion. That's why they have rights. That's why we have laws protecting them. Now, we could argue about the problems with a lot of these laws, such as, the alcohol laws, which are simply prohibition and make it more romantic and romanticize drinking and things like that. But the example that was used, that is always used when it comes to laws on children, and you bring up the fact that, a lot of them are unnecessary or they go too far, is, pornography laws with children. And a lot of people, they'll make the argument. They'll say, oh, well, we need these laws to protect these kids, or people will put them in porn and ruin their lives and da-da-da-da-da. These individuals will then say that it's because the children can't give consent. It's because the children legally don't have the right to say yes or no. And that's part of it, I'll concede. But it's not the reason for the law. The reason for the law is because of what it takes to put a child into pornography. The idea that a child can't consent to, say, sexual activity, it varies based on age, and there are laws that reflect that in different states. The varying degrees of reasonableness. And the argument of consent is somewhat ridiculous in terms of being recorded, because by that notion you would have to get a release signed for every birthday party video that you would have, and that sort of thing. Or if you put your kid in a TV commercial, technically speaking, you couldn't have child actors because they can't legally give consent, and the parent can't do something to take away the rights of the children. So this whole notion of consent in that aspect is not valid. It has to do with violating the rights of the individual child insofar as what it would take to produce something as horrible and abhorrent as, child pornography, is the fact that you have to hurt the child to produce it. You have to abuse the child to make that happen. So it's not that it exists. It's not that you can't record the child. And it's not that they're too young to say yes. It's that you are using force against a child and inexorably altering their life to produce this product. That's why we have these laws. And when you look at laws like alcohol, drinking laws, minimum wage laws, we have a really high minimum wage law here, a really high minimum drinking law here in the States. 21 years old for an adult to drink alcohol. You can die for your country at 18 years old, but you cannot buy a beer. That's, to me, insane. Absolutely insane. The idea that an 18-year-old can't have a beer but can die for his country, the idea that an 18-year-old can make that decision to die for their country but cannot make the decision to drink is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. If an 18-year-old is going to pick up a rifle and defend our country, they need to be able to buy a beer. I want to buy that guy a drink. And everybody here agrees with me. I know they do, because you wouldn't be listening to this show if you didn't have the patriotism. And I know so many people, when they talk about alcohol laws, they always talk about how, well, you know, if you sign up for the military, you ought to get a special waiver, da-da-da-da-da. Well, of course, that argument is ridiculous, because it implies somehow that the government needs to give you permission for what to put in your body based on an arbitrary age notion. The idea that somehow you don't have the right to drink because of when your birthday is. It's ridiculous. Now, a lot of people will make the argument, oh, well, the brain development and it's detrimental to their growth. Look, from all of the research that I've done on this, the two ages of brain development where it makes a difference is 15 years old and 25 years old. At 15 years old, your brain has sort of moved past that initial development stage where alcohol can really be harmful after 15 years old. So after the age of 15, and I know a lot of people say, well, how can you know exactly? Well, I'm not going to require every kid in the country to get a brain scan to determine if they can drink, because it's stupid. But what I am saying is that our minimum drinking age laws, our drinking age prohibitions, are not based on medical research. They are not based on fact. They are based on people like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, people like these various religious groups that seek to prevent people from drinking because they think that people are too dumb to do so. Let me tell you, if I would have been able to have a beer at 15 years old, I would have been a lot less inclined to want to go out and party when I turned 21. And that's true for most countries. If you look across the world where they've got lower drinking ages, there's no glamour to going out and drinking. In America, we've got this American Pie notion, this party, college, rock star, drunken binge, passed out in the ditch and wake up in a dress ridiculousness, because we've romanticized the idea of getting drunk, because it's something you have to almost fight for. I mean, you don't have to fight to turn 21, but that's kind of what it feels like as a young person in this country. We have romanticized alcohol by criminalizing it. We have made it more glamorous than it ought to be by turning it into this forbidden fruit for children. Now, you're always going to have people who are, popping bottles and getting drunk, and having fun in a club and all this other ridiculousness. But those people are going to do it anyway. Those people are going to do whatever they want to do, and the idea that you can prevent a law, or you can put a law in place that will somehow prevent them from being stupid, is in and of itself stupid. It's the same exact reason why we know gun control laws don't work. It is the same exact reason we know that the various laws on drugs don't work. People are still smoking weed everywhere. It's a ridiculous notion. It's a completely ridiculous notion. And it's something that, as Americans, we need to understand is not working. All right, everyone, it's been a great show today. I hope you enjoyed it. We support our troops. Going to salute our servicemen and women, police officers, EMT, firefighters, all that stuff. Thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week.